Let me tell you something that most men never realize until it's too late. The moment a relationship begins to slip away, the natural reaction is panic. Your heart starts racing, your mind fills with memories, and suddenly you feel like you must do something, anything, to bring her back. So, you start texting more, you start calling more, you try to explain yourself again and again. You try to remind her of the good times, you try to convince her that you can fix everything. But here's the painful truth. The more you chase, the further she moves away. Think about it for a second. Attraction is built on emotion, curiosity, and a sense of value. But when a man begins chasing desperately, he unknowingly sends a message that he is afraid of losing her. And fear changes the entire energy of the relationship. Instead of seeing a confident man who stands strong in his own life, she starts seeing someone who is trying to hold on too tightly. And the strange thing about human psychology is this. When something feels like it is chasing us, our instinct is often to pull back. You see it everywhere in life. The harder someone tries to force a conversation, the more uncomfortable the other person feels. The more someone pushes for attention, the more the other person wants space. And relationships are no different. When a breakup or distance happens, emotions are already running high. She may be confused, overwhelmed, or unsure about what she feels. But when you begin flooding her with messages, explanations, and attempts to win her back immediately, you remove the one thing that could actually work in your favor: space. Space is powerful because when you stop chasing, something unexpected happens inside her mind. The pattern changes, the energy changes, the certainty she once felt about you being there, no matter what, suddenly disappears. And when certainty disappears, curiosity begins to grow. She starts wondering why you're quiet. She starts thinking about why you're not reacting the way she expected. She may check your social media, look at old conversations, or replay memories in her mind. And that curiosity is the first spark that can bring someone back emotionally. But if you are constantly chasing, that curiosity never has the chance to exist. Instead, she already knows exactly what you're doing, waiting, hoping, reaching, and trying to pull her back every minute. There is no mystery in that. There is no space for her emotions to grow. Now, this doesn't mean you become cold, bitter, or disrespectful. That's not strength. That's just pain wearing a mask. Real strength is calm. Real strength is self-respect. It's the ability to disconnection. But I also value this connection, but I also value myself. And when a man reaches that point, his energy changes. His words become fewer but more meaningful. His actions become calmer. His presence becomes stronger. Women are incredibly sensitive to energy. They notice when a man is emotionally stable and centered in his own life. And when you stop chasing and start focusing on your own growth, your own goals, and your own peace, something interesting happens. You become attractive again. Not because you're trying to impress her, but because you're no longer trying to prove your worth. You're simply living it. And when she senses that shift, she begins to feel something she didn't feel before. Uncertainty about losing you. Because before, she knew you would always be there, chasing, waiting, and trying to fix everything. But now she sees a man who respects himself enough to step back. And that difference can change everything. Many men believe that constant effort will bring someone back, but attraction doesn't grow from pressure. It grows from emotional space. It grows from the chance for someone to miss you. You cannot miss someone who never gives you the opportunity to feel their absence. Think about the people who have left the strongest impact in your life. Often, it's not the ones who constantly demanded attention. It's the ones who carried themselves with quiet confidence, the ones who didn't beg to be valued. When you stop chasing, you are not giving up on the connection. You are giving the connection room to breathe. And in that space, memories begin to speak louder than words. She remembers the laughter. She remembers the moments you shared. She remembers how you made her feel when things were good. And slowly, those memories begin to compete with the distance she created. That's when the emotional shift begins, because love and attraction are not things you can force. They are things that grow when both people feel free to choose them. And the moment you stop chasing, you give her the chance to choose you again. Now, once you understand the power of stepping back and no longer chasing, the next thing that becomes incredibly important is what you do with that space. Because silence alone is not enough. Distance by itself doesn't change the story. What truly changes the dynamic is who you become during that time. Most men after a breakup fall into one of two traps. The first trap is obsession. They spend their days replaying every conversation, every mistake, every memory, wondering what they could have done differently. Their mind becomes stuck in the past. The second trap is waiting. They sit around hoping she will message, hoping she will call, hoping somehow things will magically repair themselves. But the men who truly shift the outcome of their lives choose a completely different path. They use that moment as a turning point because here is something powerful about human psychology. People rarely regret leaving someone who stays the same, but they often regret leaving someone who becomes better. When a woman believes she has fully figured you out, the emotional chapter feels closed. In her mind, she understands the man she walked away from, but when she begins to see that the man she knew is evolving, growing, and transforming into someone stronger, the story suddenly feels unfinished. And that's where regret begins to grow. I want you to imagine this for a moment. A woman walks away from a relationship believing she made the right decision. In her mind, she has already created a picture of what your life will look like without her. Maybe she imagines you struggling. Maybe she assumes you'll still be waiting around for her. Maybe she believes nothing about you will really change. But then something different happens. Weeks pass, months pass, and instead of seeing a man who collapsed, she begins to see signs of growth. She notices you becoming more focused, more confident, more driven. Your energy feels different. Your presence feels stronger. And suddenly the image she had of you no longer matches reality. That's when the questions begin. Did I misjudge him? Has he changed? Is he becoming the man I always hoped he would be? You see, attraction is deeply connected to progress. People are naturally drawn to individuals who are moving forward in life. Growth creates admiration. Improvement creates curiosity. But here's the key point. This transformation cannot be fake. It cannot be done just to impress someone because people can sense when change is authentic and when it's simply an act. Real growth comes from a deeper realization. It comes from the moment you decide that your life is bigger than one relationship, that your purpose, your health, your confidence, and your future deserve attention and effort. So instead of spending your energy trying to convince someone to come back, you start investing that energy in becoming the kind of man who doesn't need to chase validation. You focus on your physical health. You take care of your body. You train, you move, you build strength, not to prove something to her, but to rebuild the respect you have for yourself. You focus on your ambitions. Maybe it's your career, your business, your skills, or your creative passions. You push yourself to grow because you understand that every great man is shaped by the way he responds to adversity. And something powerful happens during this process. The pain that once felt overwhelming slowly transforms into motivation. The heartbreak that once kept you stuck becomes the fuel that drives you forward. And when people see that transformation, they feel it. Your conversations change. Your posture changes. The way you carry yourself in the world becomes different. You are no longer the man defined by loss. You become the man defined by growth. Now, here's where the psychology becomes fascinating. When a woman begins to notice that you are leveling up, a quiet comparison starts forming in her mind. She starts remembering the version of you she left, and she starts observing the version of you that exists now. If the new version is stronger, calmer, and more confident, something begins to shift inside her emotionally. Because humans are wired to value what is rare and improving, a man who rises after a difficult moment shows resilience, shows strength, and strength has always been one of the most attractive qualities a person can have. This is why so many men experience some things surprising months after a breakup. Just when they've stopped focusing on the past and started building a better future, the message arrives. The unexpected call appears. The curiosity returns. It doesn't happen because they begged for attention. It happens because they became someone worth rediscovering. And even if she never returns, something even more important has happened. You have transformed into a version of yourself that carries more confidence, more purpose, and more self-respect than before. Because the real goal was never simply to win someone back. The real goal was to become the kind of man whose growth makes anyone think twice about losing him. Now, after you step back from chasing and you've started focusing on becoming a stronger version of yourself, there is another quality that quietly determines whether attraction grows again or disappears completely. And that quality is emotional control. Most people underestimate how powerful emotional stability really is. When relationships face tension, distance, or conflict, emotions naturally rise to the surface. Feelings of anger, jealousy, frustration, and sadness begin to take control. And when someone we care about pulls away, the instinct is to react immediately, to defend ourselves, to argue, to explain, to prove our point. But the truth is, emotional reactions often damage attraction far more than the original problem ever did. When a man loses control of his emotions, it changes the way he is perceived. The woman who once saw him as steady and confident begins to see someone unpredictable, someone easily shaken by circumstances. And the moment emotional chaos enters the picture, respect slowly begins to fade. You see, attraction isn't only about love or chemistry. It's also about trust in someone's character. It's about feeling that the person you're connected to can handle pressure without falling apart. Think about the people in your life who naturally command respect. They're not the loudest. They're not the most reactive. They're usually the calmest individuals in the room. When tension appears, they don't panic. When disagreements happen, they don't explode. They stay centered. That kind of emotional balance is powerful. Now imagine a situation where communication becomes difficult between you and the woman you care about. Maybe she says something that feels unfair. Maybe she becomes distant. Maybe she criticizes you or questions your intentions. In those moments, many men respond emotionally. They raise their voice. They send long emotional messages. They try to win the argument instead of understanding the moment. And while it might feel justified in the moment, that reaction often creates more distance because emotional control isn't about suppressing feelings. It's about managing them with maturity. When you stay calm during difficult conversations, something interesting happens. The entire emotional atmosphere changes. Instead of escalating conflict, you create space for clarity. Instead of reacting from anger, you respond with awareness. And women notice that. A man who can remain composed when things become uncomfortable sends a powerful message without even saying a word. He communicates that he is grounded, that he is not easily shaken, that his sense of identity doesn't collapse the moment things become uncertain. This kind of stability creates emotional safety. And emotional safety is something people deeply crave in relationships, even if they don't always express it directly. Now, here's another part of the psychology that many people overlook. When someone pulls away emotionally, they are often watching how the other person responds. Not consciously all the time, but subconsciously, they are observing. They are noticing whether you react with desperation, anger, or calm confidence. If every message you send is filled with frustration or pleading, the emotional pressure increases. But if your responses remain respectful, calm, and measured, something different happens. The situation begins to feel lighter. Your composure creates contrast, and contrast is powerful in human psychology. When someone expects you to react emotionally but instead sees patience and self-control, curiosity begins to grow again. They start wondering what changed. They begin to see a level of maturity they may not have noticed before. But emotional control goes deeper than just conversations. It also shows in how you live your life during uncertain times. Do you let heartbreak define your entire mood every day? Or do you acknowledge the pain while still moving forward with dignity? Do you frustration to make you bitter toward others? Or do you remain respectful and focused on becoming better? The way you carry your emotions during difficult moments reveals more about your character than anything else. Strong individuals don't deny their feelings. They simply refuse to let those feelings control their behavior, and that difference can completely transform how others see you, because confidence isn't just about what you say. It's about how you behave when things don't go your way. When you stay calm, when you avoid unnecessary arguments, when you respond instead of reacting, you show emotional maturity. You demonstrate that you are capable of handling life's challenges without losing your sense of balance. Over time, that kind of presence becomes incredibly attractive. People feel comfortable around someone who brings stability into their lives, someone who doesn't create emotional storms every time something goes wrong. And when a woman begins to recognize that you are emotionally grounded, it shifts the way she feels about the connection. She may begin remembering moments where your calmness made her feel secure. She may begin comparing your stability with other experiences in her life, and slowly that quiet strength starts to stand out, because in a world where many people react impulsively, a man who can master his emotions becomes rare, and rare qualities naturally draw attention. So, when challenges appear, when misunderstandings happen, when distance creates uncertainty, remember this simple truth. Your greatest strength is not how loudly you react. Your greatest strength is how calmly you remain. Now, once you have learned to step back from chasing, once you've begun focusing on your own growth, and once you've started mastering your emotions, there is another element that quietly begins to work in your favor. And that element is something many relationships lose over time without even realizing it. It's mystery. At the beginning of almost every relationship, there is a natural sense of curiosity. You're discovering each other. Conversations feel exciting. You don't know everything about the other person yet, and that uncertainty creates a sense of energy. Every interaction feels new. Every message carries anticipation. Every meeting feels like something special, but as time goes on, something slowly changes. When people spend enough time together, they often begin to reveal every detail of their lives. Every snort's thought is shared. Every plan is explained. Every move becomes predictable. And while openness is important in a healthy relationship, too much predictability can quietly remove the excitement that once existed. When everything about you becomes completely known and expected, curiosity fades. And when curiosity fades, attraction can slowly fade with it. This is why mystery is such a powerful psychological force. Mystery does mean being dishonest or secretive in a negative way. It simply means allowing parts of your life to unfold naturally instead of constantly explaining everything. When someone feels like they already know exactly what you are doing, exactly how you will respond, and exactly where your life is heading every moment, the emotional tension disappears. But when parts of your life remain dynamic and evolving, curiosity stays alive. Now think about what happens after distance appears in a relationship. When you stop chasing and begin focusing on your own life, you automatically create space where mystery can return. Before, she may have known every detail of your routine. She knew when you were free, what you were thinking, and how you would respond to almost anything. But now things are different. Your life continues moving forward, but she is no longer seeing every step of the journey. Maybe she notices that you're spending time improving yourself. Maybe she hears that you're working toward new goals. Maybe she sees glimpses of your life through small interactions or social moments, but she doesn't see the whole picture. And that incomplete picture creates curiosity. Human beings are naturally drawn to things they don't fully understand. When there are missing pieces in a story, the mind tries to fill those gaps. Questions begin to form. What is he doing now? Has he changed? Who is he becoming? And the more those questions appear, the more your presence returns to her thoughts. But there is an important balance here. Mystery is not about playing games or pretending to be someone you're not. Authenticity still matters deeply. The goal is not to create confusion, but to allow your life to have depth and movement beyond the relationship. When a man's entire identity revolves around one person, he becomes predictable and emotionally dependent. But when he has passions, ambitions, friendships, and personal goals, his life naturally carries layers. Those layers create intrigue. Think about the most interesting people you've ever met. They usually have lives that feel full. They have experiences, ideas, and pursuits that make them unique. You never feel like you know everything about them immediately. There's always something new to discover. That same principle applies to attraction. When she sees that your life continues evolving in ways she didn't expect, it reminds her that you are not a static character in her story. You are a person with your own direction, your own growth, and your own path. And that realization can quietly change how she sees you, because the man she once believed she fully understood is now revealing new layers. Maybe you are more confident than before. Maybe your mindset has matured. Maybe your energy feels calmer, more focused, more purposeful, and each of those changes adds another piece to the mystery. Instead of feeling like she already knows the entire story, she begins to feel like the story is still unfolding. That feeling is powerful. Curiosity leads to attention. Attention leads to reflection. And reflection often brings emotions back to the surface. Suddenly, memories begin to feel different. The past doesn't seem as simple as it once did. The connection you shared begins to feel more meaningful when she realizes that the man she knew was becoming someone even stronger. But remember this, mystery works best when it happens naturally. You don't need to show off every improvement you make. You don't need to announce every change in your life. True confidence allows progress to speak quietly through your actions. The less you try to prove your worth, the more powerful your presence becomes. Because people are far more intrigued by what they discover than by what is constantly explained to them. When your life carries purpose, when your energy reflects growth, and when your path continues moving forward, mystery becomes part of who you are. And that quiet mystery has a way of pulling attention back towards you. Because predictable men are easy to forget, but men whose lives continue to evolve are impossible to ignore. Now, after creating space, focusing on your growth, mastering your emotions, and bringing back that sense of mystery, there is another psychological shift that becomes incredibly important. And this shift is subtle, but it changes everything about how a woman feels towards you. It's the difference between making someone feel pity for you and making someone feel curious about you. And believe me, those two emotions lead to completely different outcomes. When a relationship begins to fall apart, many men unintentionally fall into the trap of trying to win love through sympathy. They send long emotional messages explaining how much they are hurting. They talk about how empty life feels without her. They try to remind her how deeply they care, hoping that their vulnerability will somehow bring her back. But here's the reality that most people don't talk about. Pity does not create attraction. When someone begins to feel sorry for you, the emotional dynamic changes. Instead of seeing you as a confident partner, they begin to see you as someone they need to comfort, tea, or manage. And while compassion may exist in that moment, attraction quietly fades into the background. Think about it carefully. Attraction grows when someone sees strength, independence, and self-respect. But when your energy communicates desperation, sadness, or emotional dependence, the balance shifts. Instead of wondering about you, she begins to feel responsible for your emotions. And responsibility is not the same as desire. This is why the most powerful thing you can do during moments of distance is to avoid creating pity altogether. Not by pretending you don't care, but by carrying yourself with dignity. You can feel pain and still maintain your self-respect. You can miss someone and still continue living your life with confidence. You can value a relationship without losing your identity in the process. When you show that kind of emotional balance, something interesting happens inside the other person's mind. Instead of feeling pressured by your emotions, they begin to observe you from a distance. And observation creates curiosity. Curiosity begins with small questions. Maybe she notices that you're not reacting the way she expected. Maybe she expected constant messages or emotional reactions, but instead she sees calmness and forward movement. That contrast stands out. Then she begins noticing other things. Your energy seems lighter. You're spending time with friends. You're working on new goals. You're laughing again. You're living your life. And suddenly the narrative she had in her mind about you begins to shift. Because instead of seeing a man who is broken without her, she sees a man who continues to grow. And that realization sparks curiosity. Curiosity is one of the most powerful emotional triggers in human psychology. When someone becomes curious about you, they begin to think about you more often. They begin wondering what's happening in your world. They begin questioning whether their decision to step away was the right one. You didn't force that curiosity. You simply allowed it to happen by maintaining your self-respect. Now, here's something important to understand. Curiosity grows strongest when your life reflects positive momentum, when she sees signs that you are becoming happier, healthier, or more focused. It naturally makes her wonder about the version of you she once knew. People are naturally drawn toward positive energy. When your presence reflects confidence and growth, it becomes difficult for others to completely ignore you, even if they tried to move on. That curiosity begins to pull their attention back, and sometimes it starts with something small. Maybe she checks your social media out of curiosity. Maybe she asks mutual friends how you're doing. Maybe she remembers a conversation you once had. Each small moment of curiosity opens the door for emotions to return, but none of that happens if pity dominates the situation. When someone feels sorry for you, they may respond out of kindness, but their heart doesn't feel pulled back toward the relationship. Instead, they feel emotional weight. Curiosity, on the other hand, feels light. It feels intriguing. It feels like there's something worth exploring again. That's why the way you carry yourself during difficult moments matters so much. Every action, every response, every choice either builds curiosity or creates pity. When you beg for attention, you create pity. When you argue emotionally, you create tension. When you try to prove your worth through desperation, you weaken your presence. But when you remain calm, focused, and respectful toward yourself, you create curiosity. You allow your life to become something she observes rather than something she feels pressured by. And over time, that quiet curiosity can become stronger than any argument or explanation you could ever give. Because the truth is, people are far more drawn to what they discover on their own than what someone tries to convince them of. When curiosity replaces pity, attraction finally has room to breathe again. And that is where the emotional pull slowly begins to return, because people rarely chase what they feel sorry for, but they often move closer to what makes them wonder. Now, after everything we've talked about, stepping back from chasing, focusing on your own growth, mastering your emotions, bringing mystery back into your life, and triggering curiosity instead of pity, there is one final shift that brings all of these ideas together. And this final shift might be the most powerful of all. It's allowing her to choose you again. You see, one of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to bring someone back is trying to control the outcome. They push for answers. They push for commitment. They push for reassurance that things will go back to the way they were. But attraction doesn't grow in environments where someone feels pressured. Attraction grows where someone feels free. Human beings value the things they feel they chose on their own. Think about it. When someone forces an idea on you, your natural reaction is resistance. Even if the idea might be good for you, the pressure itself creates tension. But when you arrive at a decision by your own choice, that decision carries much more meaning. Relationships are exactly the same. If a woman feels like she is being convinced, pushed, or emotionally cornered into returning, her mind will focus on protecting her independence. She will feel like she needs to defend her space. But when she feels free, when there is no pressure forcing her back, something interesting begins to happen.